My golden child brother purposely scheduled his wedding the same day as our sister's sweet 16, so I flipped the script and turned his wedding into a celebration about her and only her. My brother Jacob was the last planned child of our family, the golden boy who could do no wrong, and the one who suffered no consequences no matter what he did. It all started when he was 7. My older sister Kay's graduation party ended early when he dropped to the floor during family pictures. He demanded our parents rush him to the hospital, so they stopped everything, then insisted Kay's friends leave so the whole family could come to the hospital to support Jacob. They wouldn't even let Kay change out of her dress before going. 30 minutes into waiting in the ER, Jacob miraculously recovered. He admitted in the car home he never even had pains. He just thought the party was boring and wanted some attention. Me and my siblings were furious, but my parents thought for some reason it was the cutest thing in the world. This created a pattern where he realized he could steal the spotlight whenever he wanted. At my graduation, he had a migraine. At my brother's basketball final, he had the flu, meaning we all had to miss the game because we were going to get everyone sick. When my aunt had a funeral for her stillborn baby, he pulled his biggest stunt up to that point and faked a heart attack while our aunt was speaking. Fast forward to last year. Jacob was 24 and engaged. He announced his wedding date at Sunday dinner, and when he did, our youngest sister Mia went completely silent. Mia is the youngest child, the unplanned one they had 8 years after Jacob, the one my parents have looked down on our entire life. I watched her face drain of color as she pushed her food around her plate. That was the exact date of her sweet 16. She'd been planning it for 2 years and saving every penny from her part-time job at the mall. My parents knew this, and still, immediately started gushing about how Jacob's wedding would be the biggest event of the year. After 10 minutes of non-stop chatter about him, Mia finally spoke up in this tiny voice saying that it was her birthday. But Mom just waved her hand dismissively and said there would be plenty birthdays to celebrate, but only one of Jacob's weddings. The worst part was what Mia told me later that night. She'd been there when Jacob got the call about an available date. She reminded him about her party, and he just laughed and said sweet 16s were overdone anyway. Then he booked that exact date right in front of her. That's when I lost it. I confronted Jacob the next day, and he told me Mia needed to grow up. He said nobody cared about some teenage party when he was marrying the love of his life. He even sent out a family group text about his gift registry, saying he expected at least $600 per couple since we'd all be saving money on not going to some kid's birthday. That's when I called an emergency sibling meeting without Jacob. My sister Eveline worked at a print shop, and my brother Patrick had helped address the wedding invitations, so he had the full guest list. We started making calls to everyone attending immediately. The plan was simple. We were going to use Jacob's big day to help Mia get into college. The response we got was incredible. Our aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, all were tired of Jacob, and all agreed to be in on it. Even better, most of them decided to come to Mia's party instead. When we told her what was going to happen, her entire mood shifted. She went from looking like SpongeBob on an off day to SpongeBob on a work day in seconds. She never thought family would choose her over Jacob, so this meant the world to her. We booked the venue she thought was out of her price range across town immediately, and for the rest of the build-up acted like her party wasn't even happening. Fast forward to Mia's party. She was on the dance floor having the time of her life, surrounded by family and friends when my phone rang. It was Jacob. I instantly knew what it was. I answered, and his angry face filled my screen. Behind him I could see his venue, and it looked extremely empty. He started screaming about how there was nobody here and the presents were a mockery. You see, I knew that alongside being the center of attention, the wedding presents were just as important to Jacob. How much they cost showed off how much people cared about him. So as part of my plan, not only did I take his attention, I ruined his presents too. All he received from guests was envelopes. In those envelopes were letters telling him that a donation in his name has been made to Mia, contributing to her college fund. He didn't receive a dime, and Mia received the worth of all his wedding presents put together, but in cash. $15,000. He demanded I fix this immediately, so I told him no problem. All he had to do was come here first. 20 minutes later, the venue doors burst open. Jacob stormed in with his fiancée Sarah trailing behind, both still in their wedding attire. The music stopped. Everyone turned to stare. Jacob's face was red, his bow tie crooked, and his perfectly styled hair was sticking up in places. He marched straight toward Mia on the dance floor. "You ruined everything!" he shouted, pointing at her. "This was supposed to be my day." Mia stood there in her sparkly dress holding a piece of cake. She didn't say anything at first. Then our grandmother stepped forward from the crowd. She walked right up to Jacob and looked him straight in the eye. "You chose this date knowing it was her birthday," grandmother said calmly. "Now you deal with the consequences." Jacob's hands were shaking. He turned to our parents, who had just arrived after getting his frantic calls. Mom's face went pale when she saw the room full of family members who were supposed to be at Jacob's wedding. "Mom, they sabotaged my wedding." Jacob clutched his chest dramatically. "I think I'm having chest pains. We need to go to the hospital right now." But this time was different. Dad looked around the room at all our relatives, then at Mia standing there in her birthday dress, and finally at Jacob. He didn't move toward the door. Neither did Mom. "Jacob, you look fine," Dad said slowly. Jacob's performance intensified. He dropped to one knee, hand pressed against his chest. Sarah pulled out her phone and started recording, threatening to post it on social media if we didn't all leave immediately for the hospital. Uncle Frank, who worked as a paramedic, walked over and knelt beside Jacob. He checked his pulse, looked at his eyes, and stood up. "His vitals are perfect," Uncle Frank announced to the room. "No signs of any cardiac distress." Jacob jumped to his feet, suddenly recovered. He grabbed Sarah's hand and tried to pull her toward the exit, but she yanked away from him. "You said they were jealous of us," Sarah said, looking around at all the decorations, the cake, the pile of presents for Mia. "You said your sister was being selfish about her birthday." "She is being selfish," Jacob insisted. "She could have moved her party." "You told me she didn't even want a party," Sarah said quietly. "You told me she agreed to cancel it." The room was completely silent now. Even the DJ had turned off the background music. Sarah looked at me, then at Mia, then back at Jacob. "Did you lie to me?" she asked. Jacob's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He tried to reach for her again, but she stepped back. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the venue. Jacob ran after her, shouting her name. The party resumed slowly. People started talking again. The music came back on, and Mia's friends pulled her back onto the dance floor. But I could see our parents standing by the gift table, having a heated discussion. discussion. Over the next week, Jacob sent daily texts to everyone in the family, long paragraphs about how we'd destroyed his life, how Sarah wouldn't talk to him, how the wedding venue was demanding payment even though hardly anyone showed up. He showed up at Kay's marketing firm during her lunch break, causing such a scene that security had to escort him out. Her manager called her into his office afterward, warning her about personal drama affecting the workplace. He called Mia's high school, pretending to be dad, claiming she was sick and needed to be marked absent for the whole week. Luckily, the attendance office knew our family and called to verify. When they couldn't reach our parents, they called me as the emergency contact. I had to drive to the school and sort it out in person. Sarah started creating fake social media accounts, posting stories about how our family was toxic and manipulative. She shared private family photos with nasty captions. One post showed a picture from last Christmas with a caption about how we were money-hungry vultures who ruined true love for cash. By the second week, things escalated. I came home from work to find Mom crying at the kitchen table. The locks on our parents' house had been changed while they were at work. Jacob had hired a locksmith, claiming he lived there and lost his keys. He left a note saying he was protecting them from their dangerous children who might steal from them. Patrick discovered Jacob had been intercepting mail at our parents' house. Mia's early acceptance letter from her dream college was missing. We only found out when the school called asking why she hadn't responded. Jacob had hidden 3 acceptance letters and 2 scholarship offers in his old room. Then Evelyn called me in tears. The police had shown up at her apartment asking about Mom's missing jewelry. Jacob had planted several pieces in her car, then called our parents claiming he saw her take them. He even had Sarah back up his story. But his plan fell apart when Evelyn found the jewelry before the police arrived and immediately called our parents. The pieces were in a bag with a receipt from a pawn shop dated after they went missing. Jacob had apparently bought them back after pawning them himself. By the 3rd week, our parents were starting to see the pattern. They discovered Jacob had been slowly draining the joint savings account he'd convinced them to open for wedding expenses years ago. Nearly $8,000 was gone, transferred to his personal account in small amounts over several months. Grandmother called a family meeting. She'd been getting strange calls from Jacob claiming we were stealing from her. He told her we were planning to put her in a home and take her house. But grandmother was sharper than he gave her credit for. She'd already talked to each of us and knew he was lying. At the meeting, she announced she was removing Jacob from her will. The room went quiet. Jacob had always assumed he'd inherit the most as the golden child. Grandmother looked directly at him and said she wouldn't leave anything to someone who tried to destroy his own family. That night, Patrick was staying at grandmother's house to help her with some repairs. He heard noises from the bathroom at 3 a.m. and found Jacob going through the medicine cabinet. Several of grandmother's prescription bottles were in his pockets. Patrick grabbed them before Jacob could leave. They struggled briefly before Jacob ran out the back door. By the end of the month, Sarah finally left him. She showed up at our parents' house with boxes of his stuff, revealing he'd been lying about having a job for the past 6 months. He'd been pretending to go to work every day while actually spending time at the casino. She'd been paying all their bills thinking they were saving his salary for the wedding. Jacob moved back in with our parents, claiming severe depression. He monopolized their time with constant demands for attention. He insisted on family therapy but secretly recorded the sessions on his phone. We found out when he accidentally sent one to the family group chat instead of whoever he was planning to send it to. The recording showed him twisting everything the therapist said, planning to use it as evidence that we were the unstable ones. Within hours, he'd created a website called mytoxicfamily.com with edited clips making it seem like we admitted to sabotaging him. Patrick's tech-savvy friend helped us get it taken down, but not before several extended family members had seen it. The following week, Jacob showed up at Mia's school during her AP chemistry presentation. He walked into her classroom claiming to be delivering an urgent family message. The teacher had to stop class while security removed him. Mia's presentation grade suffered because she couldn't focus afterward. Her chemistry partner later told us Jacob had been sitting in the parking lot for 2 hours, timing his entrance for maximum disruption. Mom found him going through her phone one morning, deleting messages from relatives who'd attended Mia's party. He'd already blocked 15 family members from her contacts. When confronted, he claimed he was protecting her from their negative influence. Dad discovered Jacob had been telling his coworkers that his siblings were substance addicts who stole from the family. One of Dad's colleagues awkwardly asked if he needed resources for family addiction support. 3 days later, Kay's promotion celebration turned into chaos. Jacob showed up at the restaurant claiming she'd invited him. He'd called ahead pretending to be her assistant, adding himself to the reservation. When Kay tried to have him removed, he loudly announced to her boss that she was discriminating against him for his mental health struggles. Her company's HR department had to get involved. The promotion wasn't revoked, but Kay spent weeks doing damage control. Patrick noticed his basketball team's equipment going missing. Basketballs, training cones, even the first aid kit disappeared over several practices. Security footage revealed Jacob taking items from the gym storage room using an old key Patrick didn't know he had. When confronted, Jacob claimed he was donating them to underprivileged youth. Patrick found everything listed for sale online under fake accounts. The Thanksgiving incident pushed our parents closer to their breaking point. Jacob arrived at 6 a.m., claiming he wanted to help cook. By noon, he'd accidentally ruined the turkey by cranking the oven to 500 degrees, burned the pies Mom had baked the night before, and spilled red wine on grandmother's tablecloth. He spent dinner telling stories about our childhood, twisting every memory to make himself the victim, and us the aggressors. Evelyn discovered him at her workplace after hours. She'd forgotten her laptop and returned to find him at her desk, trying to access her computer. He claimed he was surprising her with dinner, but security footage showed he'd been there for an hour attempting different passwords. Her boss installed additional security measures and banned him from the building. December brought new tactics. Jacob created a fake charity fundraiser claiming Mia had cancer. He used her school photo and set up donation links on social media. Mia's friends started messaging her with condolences and offers to help. The school counselor called our parents for a meeting about support resources. We had to provide medical records to prove Mia was healthy. The platforms eventually removed the fundraisers, but not before he'd collected several $100s from well-meaning strangers. He started showing up at Mia's part-time job every few days. He'd order complicated custom items, then claim they were wrong and demand remakes. He'd leave 1-star reviews under different names, all complaining about Mia specifically. Her manager, who'd known our family family for years, recognized the pattern and banned him from the store. Jacob responded by standing outside with signs claiming the store discriminated against customers with disabilities. Christmas Eve was particularly difficult. Jacob arrived uninvited with presents for everyone. Items we quickly realized were things he'd taken from our homes over the past months. Patrick's missing watch, Kay's favorite scarf, Evelyn's coffee maker, even Mia's study notes were wrapped and labeled as gifts from him. When we confronted him, he insisted we'd given them to him and forgotten. 2 weeks into January, neighbors started complaining about Jacob sleeping in his car outside our parents' house. He'd set up a whole living situation in the vehicle, complete with battery-powered heater and cooler. He told anyone who asked that his family had made him homeless. Mrs. Chen from next door brought him food until Mom explained the situation. Even then, Jacob convinced her that Mom was lying to save face. The credit card situation nearly worked. Jacob had applied for cards in Patrick's name using information he'd gathered over years. Only Patrick's habit of checking his credit score monthly caught the applications. The fraud department flagged them as suspicious when Jacob couldn't answer security questions about Patrick's previous addresses. He tried the same with Kay and Evelyn, but we'd all frozen our credit by then. Valentine's Day brought anonymous hate mail to our partners. My girlfriend received a letter detailing why I was unsuitable for relationships, filled with twisted versions of childhood events. Kay's boyfriend got emails from concerned family friends, warning him about her manipulative nature. The writing style was obviously Jacob's, but he'd mailed them from different post offices across town to avoid being traced. Mia's college acceptance celebration became his next target. He called the restaurant pretending to be Dad, trying to cancel the reservation. When that failed, he showed up early and told the hostess the party was relocated. Fortunately, we'd warned the restaurant after the Kay incident. They had his photo at the host stand with instructions to refuse him entry. March brought the fake engagement announcement. Jacob posted on social media that he was engaged to a woman none of us had heard of. He tagged all of us, expecting congratulations. When we didn't respond, he created fake accounts to comment on how unsupportive his family was. The woman in the photos turned out to be a stock photo model. He'd created an entire fictional relationship to get attention. Uncle Frank caught him trying to access grandmother's bank accounts online. He'd installed a keylogger on her computer during one of his visits. Frank's daughter, who worked in cybersecurity, found it during a routine check. The program had been running for weeks, capturing passwords and personal information. Grandmother immediately changed all her accounts and removed him as an emergency contact. The gym situation became unbearable for our parents. Jacob had joined their fitness center and would follow them around, loudly discussing family business. He'd interrupt Mom's yoga classes to ask about inheritance matters. He joined Dad's swimming lane and tried to have heart-to-heart conversations while they did laps. Other members complained about the constant drama. Easter dinner was the breaking point for many relatives. Jacob sent invitations to a reconciliation dinner at our parents' house, without telling our parents. 30 family members showed up expecting a meal. Mom and Dad were mortified, scrambling to order pizza for everyone. Jacob arrived late, acting surprised that Mom hadn't prepared a feast. He spent the evening giving a presentation about forgiveness that he'd clearly practiced. Evelyn's birthday in May should have been simple. She wanted a quiet dinner with just siblings. Jacob found out the restaurant and called in a fake bomb threat. We spent 3 hours standing outside while police searched the building. Security cameras showed Jacob making the call from a payphone 2 blocks away. The restaurant pressed charges, but he claimed someone who looked like him must have done it. He started applying for jobs using us as references without asking. Kay's boss received calls about Jacob's application for a marketing position. Patrick's coaching supervisor got reference requests for youth counseling positions. I had 3 different companies contact me about his supposed experience working at my firm. Each application listed achievements and responsibilities that were completely fabricated. Mia's graduation approached with increasing tension. Jacob created a petition to have her graduation privileges revoked, claiming she'd cheated her way through school. He sent it to the principal with forged signatures from concerned students. The school investigated and found no evidence, but Mia had to meet with administrators multiple times. Her final weeks of high school were overshadowed by the stress. Mom discovered Jacob had been slowly moving items from their house to a storage unit. Family photos, heirlooms, even small furniture pieces disappeared. He'd rented the unit claiming he was helping them declutter. When confronted, he insisted they'd asked him to do it during conversations they couldn't remember. Dad found receipts showing Jacob had been selling some items online. The weekend before graduation, Patrick caught Jacob spray painting "liar" on Mia's car. He'd worn a hoodie and mask, but Patrick recognized his shoes. When police arrived, Jacob claimed he'd seen vandals and was trying to clean it off. The paint can in his hand and security footage from the neighbor's camera told a different story. Our parents finally agreed to file a restraining order. Graduation day arrived with heavy security. The school, aware of the situation, had officers stationed at entrances with Jacob's photo. He tried entering with a fake press pass, claiming to be a photographer for the local paper. When that failed, he climbed onto the roof of a nearby building with a megaphone. He managed to shout Mia's name once before police escorted him down. Despite everything, Mia walked across that stage with her head high. The family section erupted in cheers, all except for the empty seats where Jacob and our conflicted parents should have been. They'd chosen to stay home to avoid confrontation, but grandmother was there, along with every aunt, uncle, and cousin who'd attended her sweet 16. That night, while we celebrated at grandmother's house, Jacob sent a group message, a photo of him standing outside the graduation venue, holding a sign that read, "Congratulations to my sister who destroyed our family." Underneath, he'd written a long message about forgiveness and moving forward. None of us responded. We were too busy toasting Mia's future, one that looked brighter than ever despite his shadow. The morning after graduation, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Mom. Jacob had broken into their garage overnight and taken Dad's tools, claiming they were payment for emotional damages. The security camera showed him loading everything into a rental van at 4 a.m. Dad filed a police report, but Jacob had already sold most items to different pawn shops across 3 counties. June brought a new level of desperation. Jacob started showing up at Mia's graduation parties uninvited, telling guests he'd organized them as a surprise. At her friend's backyard celebration, he grabbed the microphone during toasts and gave a 20-minute speech about family betrayal. The host's father physically removed him while he shouted about discrimination. Patrick discovered Jacob had been impersonating him at local basketball camps, collecting registration fees from parents. 3 different camps called asking why Coach Patrick hadn't shown up for scheduled sessions. Parents demanded refunds Patrick knew nothing about. He spent weeks rebuilding his reputation in the youth sports community. The 4th of July incident nearly broke Mom completely. Jacob convinced her elderly sister that Mom was developing dementia and needed supervision. Aunt Helen drove 6 hours believing Mom was in crisis, only to find her perfectly healthy and hosting a barbecue. The confrontation between the sisters lasted hours, with Jacob texting both sides contradictory information to fuel the conflict. Kay's wedding planning became a nightmare when vendors started calling about strange change requests. Jacob had been contacting them pretending to be her fiancé, trying to cancel orders or redirect deliveries. The cake decorator almost refused to work with them after receiving multiple conflicting design changes. Kay had to password protect every vendor account. By late July, Jacob's car had become a mobile command center for his schemes. Eveline spotted him parked outside her apartment complex at odd hours, laptop open, presumably planning his next move. Her neighbors reported seeing him going through recycling bins looking for personal information. Building management issued a trespassing warning. August brought the fake intervention attempt. Jacob sent formal letters to extended family members claiming we were planning to have Mom committed. He included fabricated medical documents and staged photos of med bottles. Uncle Frank's medical knowledge helped debunk the claims, but several relatives drove hours to check on our parents. The community pool banned Jacob after he followed Mom to her water aerobics class 3 days straight, loudly telling other participants about his abusive siblings. He'd stand at the pool edge narrating false family stories while Mom tried to exercise. The instructor finally called security when he jumped in fully clothed, claiming Mom was drowning. Mia's college orientation weekend turned into another battleground. Jacob booked a room at the same hotel, introducing himself to other parents as her guardian since her real family abandoned her. He attended parent sessions spreading lies until campus security escorted him out. Mia's roommate almost requested a transfer after hearing his stories. September arrived with Jacob's most elaborate scheme yet. He created a fake nonprofit called Victims of Family Alienation and started soliciting donations outside grocery stores. He wore a shirt with our family photo, our faces circled in red except his. Local news almost covered it until a reporter fact-checked his claims and found the inconsistencies. Patrick's girlfriend received flowers at work with cards describing Patrick's supposed criminal history. Each day brought new accusations: theft, assault, fraud. Her co-workers started asking questions. When she confronted Jacob at our parents' house, he claimed he was protecting her from making a terrible mistake. The homecoming disaster showed Jacob's increasing recklessness. He bought tickets to Mia's college football game and spent the entire time walking through the student section with flyers about his stolen life. Campus police removed him, but not before he disrupted the entire section. Mia's new friends witnessed everything. October meant Halloween, and Jacob used it as cover for more harassment. He showed up at our parents' house dressed as a doctor, claiming Mom had called for a medical consultation. He tried to convince arriving trick-or-treaters that the house was quarantined. Dad had to stand outside all evening assuring neighbors everything was fine. Eveline's work presentation to major clients got derailed when Jacob called the conference room directly, pretending to be building security evacuating for a gas leak. Her company lost the account. Though her boss understood the situation, the professional damage was real. She started job hunting quietly. By November, our parents had installed a comprehensive security system, but Jacob found ways around it. He befriended their newspaper delivery person, pumping them for information about the family's routines. He convinced the gardener he was house-sitting and needed copies of the gate code. The anniversary of the wedding fiasco brought a flood of social media posts from Jacob. He created a memorial page for his lost love with Sarah, though she'd long since blocked him and moved to another state. He posted their old photos with captions about how our family destroyed true love. Former mutual friends messaged us asking if he needed professional help. Mia's first college semester grades arrived with her on the dean's list. Jacob responded by sending letters to her professors claiming she'd plagiarized assignments. The academic affairs office had to investigate, though they quickly dismissed the claims. The stress affected her finals preparation, but she still excelled. December's family gatherings required military-level planning. We created schedules ensuring someone was always with our parents, rotating shifts so Jacob could never catch them alone. He spent hours circling their block, waiting for an opening. Neighbors formed an informal watch network, texting us whenever they spotted his car. Christmas morning, Jacob left gifts on everyone's doorsteps, photo albums he'd stolen from Mom's house with pictures of himself cut out, leaving empty spaces throughout our family history. Attached notes demanded we remember who was erased. Mom cried seeing decades of memories vandalized. New Year's Eve brought Jacob's final major attempt at disruption. He convinced a cousins plus one that there was a family party at our parents' house, sending 30 strangers to their door at midnight. While our parents dealt with confused guests, Jacob live-streamed from their backyard, narrating his version of events to whoever would watch. By January, the extended family had developed a communication network to warn each other about Jacob's latest schemes. A group text included 40 relatives sharing sightings and strange encounters. Even distant cousins knew to verify any unusual requests or claims about family members. The restraining order violations mounted. Jacob would stand exactly 101 feet from prohibited locations, technically compliant, but obviously present. He'd hire others to deliver messages or leave items. Legal consequences remained frustratingly minimal. Warnings, short holds, paperwork that led nowhere. Valentine's Day, 2024 arrived with unexpected quiet. No harassment, no schemes, no sightings. Then we learned why. Jacob had been evicted from his apartment and was living in his car full-time. Security footage from various locations showed him sleeping in parking lots, charging devices at 24-hour businesses. Mia returned for spring break to find her bedroom window broken. Nothing stolen, just broken. Jacob's message was clear. He could still reach her safe spaces. We installed security film on all windows and additional cameras. The house looked like a fortress, but it kept our parents safe. March brought news through the family network. Jacob had been spotted at food banks and shelters, his schemes apparently taking too much time from actual employment. Former friends reported him asking for loans, spinning tales of family wealth stolen by vindictive siblings. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. While Jacob spiraled deeper into his self-created work-related crisis, Mia thrived at college. Her professors praised her work. She joined meaningful clubs, made real friends. Every success story we heard about her highlighted the contrast with Jacob's deterioration. As I write this, it's been nearly 2 years since that sweet 16 party. Our family gatherings are smaller now, security conscious but still warm. We check locks, vary routines, and maintain vigilance. Jacob remains out there, occasionally surfacing with new schemes that fool fewer people each time. Last week, Mia called from college with news. She'd been selected for a prestigious summer internship. As she shared her excitement, I heard strength in her voice that hadn't existed before. She'd earned every opportunity through her own merit, despite Jacob's shadow. Our parents finally started therapy last month, processing years of enabling and its consequences. They keep Jacob's old room locked, unable to fully let go, but no longer making excuses. The family photos have been reprinted, new memories slowly filling the cutout spaces. Patrick coaches his team without looking over his shoulder now. Kay's wedding proceeded with security, but also joy. Eveline found a better job with understanding management. Grandmother, sharp as ever at 89, removed Jacob's name from family documents with steady hands.